well.
All these young, fresh faces, miss, will make me feel...
Fresh faces?
Places, yeah.
Bless you. Just humouring. Right, okay, so, good afternoon all. We're here to talk about marking and feedback. Now, we all know, even at the end of a long day, that marking should be about this. I see some thoughtful nods. We're taking this on board. So why is it then that marking feels like this? Okay, triple marking there of course was triple impact marking, so the students assess it themselves, you mark it, they respond to your marking. The triple impact marking, that's how it feels sometimes. It feels like in principle we want to mark well, we want to give each student the feedback, but in reality it's really difficult. So the first thing I'm going to get you to do, I've got some nice green pens for you and I've got a lovely piece of work I prepared earlier. If you could pass out the pens please. If you could get yourselves into 3 groups.
Thank you very much.
You can all have a piece of the wondrous work, but I would like you all please just to give me some feedback on it, okay? Have a little annotate with your green pen, do some marking. Can't get top off. Come on. Here you go, look. Take one, pass one on. Okay, so here we go, take one, pass one on. So this is the work that has been produced in my exercise book. Here's my exercise book. I'd like you to mark and annotate my work. I'm only going to give you 3 minutes.
Is this yours, miss, or did they...
How are you going to mark my work?
Did you find it?
It's a special piece of writing. Okay, you've only got 3 minutes. Off you go. Remember, you're supposed to be in 3 groups.
As in marking in groups?
Yeah, you can discuss it in groups.
They have not underlined it. Does that say I hate to do? Oh. Annexation, is that nice?
I'll get that far, I'm sorry, but...
Yeah. What's your relish? Got just under a minute, so try and just get together in your group and see what kind of feedback you're going to give me.
Yes.
There's too much to correct everyone because
And it will
I've spoken feet, is it 2 T's or 2 F's? Exactly. It comes from the...
Explain that.
Yeah.
She goes to work, and then she gave a she had an emotional response, and she gave an example of how she got work, how it made her feel. So that was good.
There's a good power of 3 in there, isn't there? Cars, bicycles and lorries.
Yeah, nice. In terms of even better if, instead of spelling and grammar, little love hearts and things like that. Quite nice touchable.
Yeah.
So, this was good.
Okay, so that's our 3 minutes. So a very articulate piece of writing. A walk in the rain. On Tuesday it rained and I got wet and my socks were soaked through. Paul and me were fighting over whose turn it was to go and get milk, and I lost, so I had to go to the shop. On the way it rained, lots of people were rushing around and I got splashed by cars and bicycles and lorries. Sorry, said Paul. I threw the bag at him and cried because I was cross. The end. Okay, so a beautiful piece of writing. We should have 3 groups now. Let's have a look at some feedback. So over here, what feedback have you got for me?
In terms of positives, we said that she was emotional response. So she described what happened, so she said that she got wet, then how it happened, and then how it made her feel, which we thought was a positive way of writing, so she structured it well.
Great, so I know what I've done well in this piece.
Yes,
Okay.
it's your piece.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you. It's my first writing.
In terms of an even better written, a slight negative was about its grammar and spelling, the little heart above all the I's, which it was quite a nice touch, but maybe it's not the best thing to do.
Nice touch, but maybe not appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tom, what I can do, you've written it here. So quite clearly, you've started a question here. Can you? What were you going to give me a question of suggesting something I could do to improve,
I
or
was
just
going
not
to,
quite
yeah,
finished
I
it?
Can you buy an umbrella?
Yeah. What was that? I think it's to do with. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I normally do that on the even better. So I ask them a question. That was me who thought that. I was always told to do that.
Good, so I can respond to your
Yes,
question.
you're saying can you do it, and then the student says whether they can or can't, and then the next time they try and improve it.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Okay, so this group, have you got some feedback for me?
Yeah, similarly, we quite like it conveyed emotion relatively well, and I wanted to focus on the heart-shaped eyes and the capital letters for names, and not mention the spelling yet.
Okay,
Focus
so
on those things first, and then.
Okay, so you're giving me something to work on. Mr. Little-Johns, can I see your page, please? Thank you. Let's see what feedback I've got here. Okay, so I know that in terms of presentation I haven't used a ruler, which I should do because he's picked me up on that one. Again, you've circled the heart, so I'm assuming you don't want me to do that. You've picked up on some grammatical mistakes, you've pointed out a spelling mistake, but you haven't told me the correct spelling, so
I was about
obviously.
to write
Oh, were you? Because I was going to go end up in my dictionary.
not the spelling, but I was going to ask you to write out a sentence correctly. So
Fantastic.
pick one of the sentences and write out correctly.
Okay, and Mrs. Ashman, can I have your feedback?
Sorry.
Okay, so Mrs. Ashman is the teacher who takes my book home, who spends a long time by herself writing lots and lots of comments on it, doing lots of marking, but then comes to the next lesson, gets Damon to hand out all of the books, and then just moves straight on to the next lesson. Okay? So
all the time.
all the time. Obviously I can say that because I know that isn't what she does. But I'm just trying to prove a point there that it doesn't matter how much effort we put into our marking and feedback, if we're not actually getting students to act on it, so like you were saying you like to put a question so the students can then respond to it. James, you were going to ask me to actually give you an example using my red pen. So again, getting me to actually do something concrete with that feedback, so consolidating my knowledge, working on the mistakes that I'd made so they're already corrected. That way I'm likely to move on and I'm likely to progress. But unfortunately, however much time you spend marking, if you don't give me any chance to act on it, I'm probably not going to improve. So that's the importance here of the initiative that we're trying to implement throughout the school, so the DIRT. Okay? Directed improvement and reflection time. People have got different images. I know Gail has a picture of a pile of dirt, etc. But the whole principle is that we give the marking back to students and they have something interactive to do with it. So some of you heard Matteo has the little codes, so students scan them in on their phones. They can then go to the website which takes them to look at the past tense. They can come up with an example of it. Some people use questions, some people mark on the left-hand side and get the students just to write on the right-hand side for an extended piece, because then you can write your comments, you can write questions, the students can get their red pens, they can respond straight away, and it means you can consolidate their learning. It also means that when you take the books in, You can see what they've missed, what hasn't been picked up on, and whether or not you need to alter your planning. So that's the point of our dirt time. So let's think about, are we up to date with our marking? Now we looked on the inset day at what some of those pitfalls of marking were. So we talk about marking, but it takes time. You only had 3 minutes there. Some of you managed to scribble down loads, and some of you didn't. 3 minutes isn't a lot of time, and yet we expect our teachers to mark whole class loads full of books, and then to make that marking meaningful. So it takes time that could be spent planning lessons. There's an argument that it depersonalises the feedback system, so unless you're actually there with the student talking about it, they haven't got the opportunity to ask you about what you've written, to clarify something that you've said, so they fully understand what you've written. And then also you can argue, as Andy Farby does, that it creates a culture of dependency. So students are so used to us picking up on spelling, then writing out the correct spelling for them. So we know we can spell it, but actually they just read and go, oh yeah, and then move on to the next lesson. Here at Feltham, we've been asking people to address presentation. I was really glad to see that James had picked up, I've lost my work now over there, that I hadn't used a ruler. Okay? I'd underlined it in a tokenistic way, I'd done a squiggly line. Nobody picked me up on the fact that I hadn't used a full and formal date.
I did.
Oh, well done, thank you. Okay, so we do ask our students to use a full and formal date. We do use them to use a ruler, and we ask them just to have these really, really simple expectations. And I put there, are we consistent? And the answer probably, at the moment, from doing book books, is not yet. Okay? We want consistency because the students we have now will be assessed on their knowledge and their understanding of the curriculum more and more through their writing. So writing is a skill, it's a lifelong skill that they need to be able to secure as early as possible. We talk about securing literacy, and again, this is a joint responsibility, it's within the teacher standards, so we've all got to be doing it. We have a common focus for marking here, so the spelling, new paragraph, etc. And some of the work that we've been doing in our marking and feedback teacher learning community is we've been trying to look at how can shortcuts like this save us time whilst we're marking, but actually help us to focus in detail on what it is students need to do to improve. So we've come up with this one here. So we have PR for presentation, purely because it stops us having to write things like ruler with a question mark or please underline your headings. If all teachers in every classroom across the school is using PR for presentation, it makes the child think, well, what is wrong with my presentation? Is it that I haven't written the full formal date? Is it that I haven't underlined? Is it they can't read my handwriting? But they're actually thinking about and interacting with the marking to look what's wrong with their work. We've kept the traditional ones in there, but we've added EX. And EX can mean explain, justify, give me an example, develop your understanding. We've put there, or tried to say that we should bring back EG. So we've put ×2, give me 2 examples. Okay? W for space wasted, and then we've just gone back to the traditional underlining in green, just a wavy line, which suggests to the child either you've used a colloquial term when you should be using formal language, so you've used a contraction like didn't instead of did not, or it might be that they've used the same word lots and lots of times and you want them to try something different. It could be that they've used a word in the wrong context, but instead of you having to write down exactly what it is they've done wrong, you can just use the wavy line, and that means that the student then has to take some ownership of what you've done to look at their work and see how can I improve this. This is all about trying to encourage our students to be independent learners. For us to make this work, we've got to work together, and we've got to embed these skills because they're important. Okay? These are important life skills that we are giving our students, so it's the responsibility of each and every one of us. Now, as I say, the teacher learning community, we're going to have a look at those codes, we'll trial them. If we think they really work, then we will hopefully roll them out whole school, but obviously if they don't work, we'll tweak them until we find something that does. So, good grammar is like personal hygiene. little letter. Dear Jack, I want a man who knows